share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV, where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is From the Sea. I'm Beth, and I'm joined by Katie and Elizabeth, as usual, to tell us about the recipes. So, Katie, tell us about yours.
Okay, so first of all, I think I was sort of intimidated by this. Don't cook a lot of fish, but I found this really cool looking recipe in this book that I unfortunately don't have with me because I had to give it back to the library, but it's called Soup Broth Bread, 120 Vibrant and Heartwarming Recipes. It's by Rachel Allen, and I really enjoyed this cookbook. I'm looking forward to checking it out again because I was not quite finished scoping it out, but I did find this awesome recipe in this book for Nordic salmon and dill soup. And so this is something that I've never made anything like this before. So I was a little bit intimidated, but I love eating like all things chowder, and it sounded like a really nice like chowdery salmon soup. So I decided to go for it. So you start out using salmon fillets that have the skin still attached, and calls for 340 grams of salmon. That ended up being like just under 2 of the salmon fillets that I have. Like I buy salmon fillets that are frozen from Whole Foods. You can get them at Costco too, I think. So that would end up being about 2 salmon fillets, and you take a sharp, flexible blade knife and you slice the salmon skin off of the fillet, and you put that into a saucepan with either chicken stock or fish stock, and you place it over high heat, bring it to a boil, and then you turn the heat down and you simmer it for like 10 minutes. And this just gets the flavor out of the salmon skin. And then in a separate saucepan, you melt some butter and you add leeks that are trimmed with the tops removed, halved lengthwise, and sliced into small pieces. And then also 2 large potatoes that have been peeled and cut into small dice. I used baby potatoes, but you know, as long as you've got enough, it doesn't matter what size your potatoes start as. So you season with salt and pepper, turn the heat down to low, and then you cover your saucepan with parchment paper and the lid, and let your leeks and potatoes cook. You stir it once or twice so that they don't stick. But you cook that, like 10 minutes until your potatoes are almost cooked. Then it says, while your veggies are cooking, cut your salmon up. I pre-cut my salmon before I start cooking it, but you cut it into 1.5 centimeter chunks, so small chunks of salmon. And then you strain your stock that you've been making with the salmon skin over onto your veggies that you've been cooking. Bring that to a boil, and then you add your salmon and you add some cream and you simmer it for 4 to 6 minutes until your salmon is just cooked. Your potatoes should be fully cooked. Then you add some chopped dill, season it to taste, and then you just serve it with a little more dill scattered on top. And this was really tasty. I loved it. It made a lot of soup. The one thing that I would say is that I would add a little more salmon next time. So I wanted more of that. So I would I would use 3 fillets of salmon in this recipe instead of the 2 that I did. And it did make a lot of soup, more than I could eat right away. So I ended up freezing it, and I was a little bit nervous about that because I did not know how like a creamy fish soup was gonna reheat. But I just reheated it recently, and it was really good. It was a very pleasant surprise, and I'm done with it now, so I'm gonna have to make it again soon. It was great.
That sounds good. I'm always daunted by like fish stews myself because I feel like I don't know how fish is gonna hold up in a soup. I'm like, is it gonna get just like overcooked? Like, what is this gonna be like? Is it gonna be like almost too fishy? With like, I always like, I'm just kind of daunted by them. But this sounds delicious and very Nordic with the dill and everything. And was it difficult to skin the salmon yourself? I guess I don't understand why you needed the skin on in the first place.
So there
For
is
the
a note
broth.
in the
Yeah.
recipe that says you can skip that step. So
Oh, okay.
if you're
Right,
if
for
you
the
don't have
broth.
the skin of the salmon, you don't have to. It just sort of intensifies the flavor of the broth. And
Okay.
I used like a fishing knife, 'cause
Okay.
like out of my tackle box basically to do it because it's just made for cooking it. So it was pretty easy uh
Okay.
to get the skin off, but you don't need to.
Oh, right. That's what I had forgotten that you were using the skin in the broth. Okay, so
Right.
that's why you would want it. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, you know what? I don't buy frozen salmon typically, and maybe that would be kind of nice, a handy thing to have for just some steaks or
Yeah.
um for that kind of soup thing, which yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
like
more
it too
affordable.
because it's just like one portion at a time too. So if you only like
Hmm.
one or two fillets of salmon, that's just something I like to keep around. And it's pretty easy to defrost. But
Cool.
so Elizabeth, tell us about what you made from the sea.
Sure. So I did a last minute change actually. I had a different recipe planned and I changed my mind yesterday. Um and I'm going to share a recipe of my own. These are it's nothing wild, but it's something I love to make and it's I basically call it like smoky shrimp tacos. So there's basically two main components. You make a light slaw and then you make some shrimp. And I'm going to go over both and it's quite simple. So basically what I do first is I make a light slaw, some green cabbage, some red cabbage. Um, you can put in like whatever you want here. I usually add, and I did this time, some very thinly sliced scallions too. Um, and some cilantro. So those are like the four main things I put in. You could certainly throw in carrots. You could certainly thinly slice some pepper, whatever. And then I dress it with apple cider vinegar and a small amount of kind of whatever oil that you have. Like often it ends up being olive oil for me, although I think that like a real chef would probably argue it should be like more neutral, whatever. Um, apple cider vinegar, olive oil, salt, and the key thing that I put into with that is some lime zest, and I sometimes squeeze in some lime juice too, just for that flavor. So you make this little slaw, and then I just get frozen shrimp that have been deveined. I defrost them, I peel them, throw them in a pan, and then my spices that I use are chipotle chili pepper, smoked paprika, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of cayenne, and then regular salt. So I keep it super simple, but I do go the smokier route with the chipotle and the smoked paprika. And you guys know shrimp, it takes like 5 minutes. I literally drizzle them with olive oil, put all the spices in, saute them up. And then I use flour tortillas for this because I just think that that tastes better. I put a spoonful of sour cream. I just like smooth that on, put a couple shrimp in there, top it with the fresh slaw, and it is super good. It's one of my favorite summer meals. And this is why I made this last week because we had super warm weather and I decided to share it for this from the sea. Um, and it's so easy. It's like the best weeknight dinner. It's pretty healthy to me with and lots of modifications if you wanted with the slaw. You could certainly make the slaw creamy. I usually just don't because I keep it simple and just put the sour cream on the tortilla. But I really like the smokier shrimp taste. I think it's really good and it just goes well with this slaw. And I make this all the time. It's great and it's definitely a staple for me. And you could probably do the shrimp on the grill if you felt like it. just lots of flexibility. I know it's nothing crazy, but it's delicious. And I really like shrimp. If I get them on sale, this is like I buy like 3 bags and just have them in the freezer ready to make this. So that's my from the sea. And I had this like really dumb moment that cracked me up because I decided to switch to do this, and then I was like, wait, no, shrimp are from freshwater. My husband was like, who are you? Like, no, they're not. So, anyway, a little bit of chaos in my mind, but yes, shrimp are from the sea, and that was my recipe.
So that's so funny. I'm really glad you said that because I kind of had the same moment where I was like, wait, salmon, they're in rivers. He's like, no, they're in the
They
sea.
end
Don't
up,
worry."
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I totally understand that, but I also really love your recipe, and I love that you just like keep shrimp around to do this. That's super smart, and it sounds amazing. I love shrimp tacos, and they're such a wonderful summer food. I will make this soon.
You know what you could do too, it sounds like, is like just mix it together with the slaw and even like scoop it with chips.
Oh, totally. Or you
Tortilla
could be like
chips.
you could skip the tortillas and it could be kind of like a smoky shrimp
Salad.
salad. Like you
Mhm.
could chop it, whatever. I love how versatile it is. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds real good and I'm real hungry. Um,
Beth, what's your from the sea?
all right, my from the sea, I made from the Art of Pantry Cooking again, Rhonda Carmen's artichoke hearts with lemon orzo and tuna. This recipe called for the jarred tuna, and so I think it might have been the first time we bought it, but you know, it kind of elevates the dish. Um, it's pretty straightforward. You know, you boil your orzo. In the meantime, you saute onion, a red onion. And then you also use a can of artichoke hearts, which I should say, let me go back. I always have to do this. Saute your onion, and then you add some wine, salt and wine, and reduce the wine by half. But what I was going to say is it calls for a can of artichokes, and I had the marinated jar of artichokes, which I don't think I'm going to ever buy again because I feel like the marinade detracts a tiny bit. It wasn't really that noticeable, but I just was like, note to self, don't bother with these marinade. I probably had them in my pantry for a long time. So anyway, you're cooking you're sauteing, adding the wine and the artichoke hearts. Then you add sun-dried tomatoes that are oil packed and thinly sliced, which I get that jar from Costco and it's all done for you. And a quarter cup of sour cream. So once your orzo's done, you put that in a big bowl and toss it with sour cream and some lemon juice. And then you add your tomato tuna mixture. You add the tuna last after you've removed it from the stove so it doesn't break up too much. So it's nice and chunky. And then I have a picture, and it really translated well for leftovers. And you can't see this right now, but you will when I also added some preserved lemons to the top, which I made for another dish that I'll reveal later. And if you want to, it really kind of, yeah, I love those things. I can't wait to share it with you, but just look it up. Preserved lemons, chopped up small, just made it extra tart and salty. So yeah, that was my dish, and it was good.
I am with you about the marinated artichokes, I have to say.
Same, yeah.
I have made that mistake. Not that it's a mistake, but I've made that mistake before, kind of, where I'm just like, no, this is like this weird, like bad marinade is not helping my dish.
Right,
So
right.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, because you're usually wanting to flavor it with something else. So
right, that's right.
yeah, note to self. And then, yeah, it was super simple. We had it again for like a tag team kind of dinner where I had to eat and then Kurt had to eat. So it was good for that. It was a good lunch, and I'd make it again.
Can I tell a brief funny story about preserved lemons?
Yes.
So so I told my sister earlier last summer that I was super interested in preserved lemons. And she's quite a good cook herself, so she made me some, and they take a while. Like, I don't, did you buy them, Beth, or did you have them?
No, I made them. It took 2 weeks.
Yeah. So she gave them to me, and then we had a power outage. And so, or no, our fridge died while we were on vacation. So they'd been in the fridge, but then when we came back and the fridge had been dead for like 5 days. And so I was like, yeah, it doesn't seem. So then she's like, no problem. Like, I'll do it again. So she recently made them again for me this winter, right before we had the big storm. No power for 5 days. So we had to throw out everything in the fridge. My sister's like, okay, you're on your own now. You
You're
have to
cut
make
off.
yeah. So
Yeah, but I didn't put mine in the fridge. You probably could have kept them both.
I don't know, because
Still to this day.
I think I could have kept the second ones, but the first ones she gave me like before they were fully done, and so she was like, maybe keep them. I don't know, because we don't have
just
air
kept,
conditioning.
I
So
kept it on a shelf. Maybe,
shelf.
but it was winter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Right.
cooler.
Yeah.
But I got mine from Eden Grinspan, who I'm realizing I have a crush on. And
Do you follow her Instagram?
Yes, I do.
So
And so she made something using this, and so I made them once before, not her recipe, just some other recipe, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I think what my mistake was, you got to just chop it up really small. It's just really supposed to be a small thing that you incorporate. So yeah, I love it. It's just so tart and salty. We all love that stuff. So
I'm gonna try it myself.
For Elizabeth. I heard she wants to try it.
Yeah, I will. I can bring you a little nub. I made half a recipe, which was only 2 lemons, and it's been like
a lot. Yeah.
She says she can keep them forever. So anyway, well, let's say this. Thank you for watching Recipe Share. Be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about and share your own in the comments. Next time, let's do brunch. We'll share recipes for brunch. Thanks again, and thanks for sharing.
Recipe share, share a little recipe with recipe.